Merry meet. It's so good to have you with us today. We are on our live stream right now, and I would like to just talk for a moment today about the group mind. The group mind. Now, there are many different group minds, the smallest of which are two people. So that could be the group mind of a relationship. Some people that are married or in a relationship. So they have who they are as individuals, but then they also have who they are as a composite. And then we have, family group minds. We have group minds of a family. So the family itself has its own sort of personality, separate and distinct from each individual. And we have group minds of companies and businesses and schools and classes, and you know how that is if you've ever been in a theater production. That cast has its own group mind, those kinds of things. But then we have the group mind of humanity. Now, the term for that, the metaphysical term for that that's been used for hundreds, if not thousands of years, is race consciousness. And we're slowly moving away from the term race consciousness just because people misunderstand it. When we say race consciousness in a metaphysical point of view, we're talking about the race of humanity, the race of the species. So I'm calling that species consciousness right now. So I'm going to call that the species consciousness. And let's look at this the concept of the Akashic records. Many of you have heard about the Akashic records, and it's just a concept, okay? It's a way of considering. Just like in your life, in your own personal life, your deep mind has a record of every little thing you've ever done. And if you are skilled enough, you can remember all the minute details of any day, of any part of your life with complete accuracy. And there are skilled people that are very skilled at hypnosis that are capable of doing that when somebody has to remember something for, say, a case or they have to remember where they were on a certain day and they can't. Well, all of that is in a person's deep mind. It's all within the memory of this lifetime. Well, there's also that same memory with the entirety of the race of humanity who is on the planet at this time. And then there is the memory of the entire race throughout all history, throughout the entire history of the human race. And that is commonly known as the Akashic records. The Akashic records, the records of spirit, the memories of spirit. So the concept behind the Akashic records is that we exist out of time. Our souls exist out of time. So there's a place that we exist that is eternal. And so if you're dealing with a concept of maybe multiple lifetimes, some people don't believe in that, but it's just think of it as a possibility for a moment. That let's say that you've had as your soul that you've incarnated into different bodies throughout different ages, right? In order so that your soul can have these different experiences, so that the soul can learn things, that the soul can have relationships, the soul can grow, the soul can have some understanding. That's the basic idea of multiple lifetimes, right? So if that's true, and I'm not saying that it is or it isn't, but if that's true, there's a place in your soul that remembers all your lifetimes, just the same way that the memory of this lifetime is held. Well, then there's also within the group mind of the species the memory of all lifetimes of all souls. So what this is coming into is the idea that on a purely spiritual level, there is a level of soul at which there's no difference between you and any other soul. And that in the Psalms is called the Son of Man. Okay, in Christianity, they call that the body of Christ. What that means is that there's a place where we're one being, where there's only, that's the esoteric truth of there's only one begotten Son of God. It means that we are it. We as one oversoul, collective soul, we are one being. And once you realize that, a lot of these conflicts start to lose their meaning. You know, the interpersonal conflicts that we have start to lose their meaning when you recognize that that it's just ultimately that is you, that is your soul. So that's why when what you do to another, you do to yourself. You know, treat others as you would like to be treated yourself. Well, it's really treat others because you are treating yourself. That's how you're treating yourself. It doesn't really. It looks like it comes back to you, but it really doesn't leave you. Okay, so. Now, let's just put a pin in that. Now, pull back into this lifetime. All of the souls that are alive on this planet at this time. There is one group mind. There is a species mind that is in effect. So this kind of a herd mentality, this kind of a species remembrance is very powerful for many people, especially people that don't have any discipline about how to differentiate where their thoughts come from, to understand that there's different places where thoughts emerge. So when you have a history or practice of some sort of meditation or spiritual practice, you get to know, well, wait a minute, I notice that when I'm coming from this part of my mind, there's a lot of tension. When I'm coming from this part of my mind, there's a lot of peace. You start to learn that there's different, we talked about this, there's a lecture called the Two Voices. You start to learn, okay, I'm going to get my data from this voice, not from that voice, from this voice, not from that voice. Well, most people in the species mind don't have that skill. So they just go. They just go. Not that they can't have that skill, but they just haven't bothered. They just don't even, many of them don't even know they should. So they just go with what's in front of them, you know, and don't question it. Well, the problem with that is that part of our consciousness that is connected to the group mind is, if we aren't skilled, if we aren't strong, if we haven't been working out, then we are completely at the effect of the thoughts of that group mind. That we don't have even the ability to know that we're supposed to question it. We don't even know that it's what it is. We don't even know that that's where our thoughts are coming from. That we're being bombarded with ideas from this group mind that we don't have to listen to. We don't have to respond to. Now, that's not to say that there aren't occasionally some real positive parts of the group mind. There are, and it does come around. We do see big, giant leaps forward in humanity where we do the right thing. But for the most part, the group mind of humanity is really stuck in its own sort of collective ego. And it can't seem to consider that there is another way. So what my reason for talking about this is that as we become more experienced at the craft or whatever it is that we practice, I mean, we practice the craft, but not all the listeners do. As we become more adept, if you will, at what we're studying, what we have to be confronted with is, do I go along with the group mind, or do I not go along with the group mind? Which choice do I want to take? It's easier to go along with the group mind. It definitely is easier because you don't have to do much except for follow. So it does take a lot more. It does take a lot more effort to say, wait a minute, let me see if I can think of an original thought here. Let me see if I say no to that impulse. Let me think what I can do to choose a different way than the way that is being shown to me, right? And so if you can get into that spiritual practice on a daily basis, you are starting to tune into listening to a voice that exists outside of that group mind. Because if you don't have that discipline, it sounds like the group mind is your guide. because it's so strong. It sounds like the group mind is your guide, but it's just using you. It's just using you as a pawn to fulfill its desires, to fulfill whatever the crazy desires of the species are at that moment, right? So again, it's nothing for you to be paranoid about. It's not like something is, I guess I'm not a Christian, so I don't understand a lot of I don't understand a lot of what they teach, but I know that whole Antichrist concept is real prevalent. And I guess if you were looking at it from an enlightened point of view or an esoteric point of view, the idea of an Antichrist would be the group mind of the species. But it's not like an entity. It's like a big computer program is all it is. It's just a big giant mental habit, big giant mental habit patterns that we as a species have fallen into, and then those grooves get really hard to come out of. And so that's why when we're on a toboggan ride down to hell as a species and we're doing all kinds of stupid things, we have within us the ability to say no. We have within us the ability to make a different choice and listen to another voice. And the big joke about all of that is that when we do listen to the voice for spirit rather than the voice for the group mind of the species, we recognize that group mind for the species is nothing. It has no power. It's nothing. It has no power whatsoever. And the message of spirit is, it only takes a tiny, itty, teeny, weeny, itsy bitsy little bit of light to destroy massive darkness. So the more you listen to me, this is spirit talking, the more you listen to me, the more help you're going to be for everybody. So let's bring so this is spirit talking, so let's bring light into this situation. Listen to me and not to that voice, and we can be real helpful. We can be very helpful. And so that's why just 5 minutes a day of tuning in to the voice for spirit can put you in alignment with that voice so that it can guide every little thought, feeling, action, decision that you make throughout the day, because you've opened up that line of communication and you've taken time over time to forge that relationship so that it's very clear and it's very strong, and then you're no longer victimized by the voices of those shrieks of the race consciousness, of the species consciousness, the races. Race and species, races, the species consciousness. You're not at the effect of it anymore, right? And so then when you are listening to the voice for spirit, you're involved in working with light that dispels the darkness. And it's not like you're going out and purposefully saying, okay, I'm going to annihilate the demons of the species consciousness. That's not what you're thinking. You're just thinking, in every single moment, I'm listening to the voice for spirit, and I'm going to respond to whatever's in front of me according to the way I'm being shown, rather than my knee-jerk reaction, which is coming from the group mind of the species, right? So just by doing that, even though it may not to the naked eye look like it makes any difference, it makes a huge amount of difference, because the light that you are allowing to be generated through you has rebounding effects throughout all time and space. So that literally you can think of yourself as the savior of the world. That's your function, is to be the light of the world. That you are here to save people. Now, you're not doing that on your own. You're not coming up with plans on your own. The way to save someone from darkness is not to do anything but shine your light. That's it. That's all you have to do. It's pre-programmed. It's coded into who you are as a spiritual being. All of us, even the people that are under the hypnotic spell of the species mind, they are coded for that as well. And so the more you do it, the more it gives subliminal permission to other people to start doing it. And then pretty soon everybody acts like, well, yeah, isn't that what you do? That's how things start. You start by resisting the group mind and listening instead to the voice for spirit, and then you're sort of a revolutionary in the realms of consciousness. You're a rebel in a good way. You're a revolutionary because you're going back to your source. You're going back to the connection of your source, and you're saying no to this idea of separation that everybody's into, right? So that's revolutionary. But then as you do that more and more and more, little by little, more and more people become revolutionaries. And people you won't even know. You won't even know sometimes who you've had an effect on. I mean, I'll hear from people like 10 years later from something, they'll say, oh, you'll never believe how much of a difference you made when you said da 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 da. And I don't remember saying that. But I do know that I was being led by spirit that day because I did my meditations and all that stuff, right? I didn't know. I wasn't, thank goodness I didn't have to know, because if it was up to me to say the right things to the right people and be in the right place at the right time, I would utterly mess it up every time. I know this for a fact. But since I've gotten good at following direction when I get it from spirit, then I tend to be in the right place at the right time quite frequently. Right? But that's not because I'm doing anything other than following direction. Right? And so then what starts to happen as more and more people get recruited into doing this, that you don't even know about, after a while, it's sort of like trendy. You've seen that happen, right? Where you've been, and there's a lot in the group mind that has gotten better and better and better than what it used to be back in the, dark ages and things like that. There are a lot of things that we've done that we're doing better, but it didn't happen because we left it to the group mind to take care of it. It did it because there were different kinds of resistances and revolutionaries along the way. But then you look back and you see what happens is when these people do this and people start getting on the bandwagon, and then all of a sudden it looks like everybody's doing it and everybody just wonders what the big deal is. It's self-evident. Right? Isn't that how we are? Isn't that what we do? We do. Everybody does this, right? That's what we want. We want to get to the place where your light work, if you will, and I hate that term because it sounds like we're part of some kind of weird new age cult or something. But working with light to choose light over darkness, to choose spirit over ego. What you're doing is you are creating new grooves. You are creating new pathways where other people will tread, and then they'll do it and they'll show people, and they'll do it and they'll show people, and a small percentage of people walking these pathways of light are going to make all the difference in the world, because it only takes a few. We don't need everybody walking pathways of light to make a difference. Light doesn't work like that. Light dispels darkness by its very existence. So a tiny bit of light is all we need. So what we need from you is willingness to do your part. And your part right now is getting that practice down so that you can have the skill necessary to listen to the right voice and not listen to the shrieks of the group ego. I hope that makes sense. So if you have any kind of a spiritual practice whatsoever, now's the time to take it seriously and to deepen it. And don't think in terms of, on one hand, you do it out of self-interest because that's just going to make your life better. But if you really care about whether the world is, how the world is doing, and whether you care about, the well-being of this world, then you really want to get into your spiritual practice, because then you can be used. You can be used as a conduit for that light to shine on the world. And then we really see things happen. Now, there may be periods of time that we're going into where it is truly the war of Armageddon, where it really looks bad. But if you're doing your work, you're always going to be at the right place at the right time. You're always going to be shining light in areas so that we have an upgrade, and you're going to have this experience of this world that's very different than were you just on your own and just going from ego impulse to ego impulse to ego impulse, which is how most people live their lives. Okay, but you getting all upset about the way things are going and saying, "Oh, isn't it awful? Oh my God, this is the worst. This is the worst." The more you say stuff like that, the less useful you are. Everybody thinks that. Everybody thinks that right now. Don't you want to be a revolutionary? Don't you want to be different? How about you say, "Wow, this is pretty bad. How can I help? How can I help? How can we bring light in here? How can I be of assistance? What do I do? Where do I go? What do I say? How do I act? What do I feel? What are my what goals do I have? Show me, tell me, help me, right? And then you will be helped. But it doesn't just happen just any more than you can't win the shot putting competition if you've never worked out before. You've got to practice. This is time. It's time now. If ever we needed people that were skilled at this stuff that we teach here, it is now. So the time is now. And do it with joy. That's revolutionary. Do it with laughter. Have fun in spite of everything that's going on around you. Have magic in spite of all the sorcery that's around you, right? Have miracles instead of all the drudgery that's around you. That's a revolutionary. That's the way. That's the way to be. Look at anybody in history who's been helpful during times of crisis. They didn't become helpful in times of crisis by agreeing with how bad everything is and isn't it awful and what are we going to do and oh my gosh, it's horrible. That's not how they helped. They said, nope, I'm going to see things differently. I'm going to choose a different path. I'm going to be here in service of the light. And I don't know what that means or how it looks, but I know it's right. I know love literally will prevail. I know love, I hate the word literally. I use it all the time and I really can't stand it. Love really does have all the power. Love really is the power that can overcome anything that's unlike itself. There is one power. There is one source. There is one substance. There is one presence. Okay? And that is pre-gender. It's not a father or a mother. Now we can talk about that when we talk about the tree of life, and that's a different lecture. And it reveals itself to us as father and mother. It does. But remember that at source, it's pre-gender. There is nothing to oppose it. There's nothing to thwart it. There's nothing but help at hand at any moment of time or point of space, to the degree that we're willing to say yes. To the degree that we're willing to do our part. But we can't just say yes in an undisciplined, lazy manner because we have no lines of communication. So we have to work. We have to be diligent. If ever you needed to master your craft, it's now. Do it for yourself and for the world, because we need you strong. We need you skilled. We need you focused. We don't need another person that's panicking and upset and mad and crazy. That's not, we have plenty. We've got more than enough. We've got plenty. So, we're not casting that role anymore. But what we do need, if you possibly are available, is we need somebody to play the role of adept. We need some people to play the role of magical adept. We need magi. We need real witches that really can make change happen. We need real spiritually mature, skilled, solid practitioners. That's what we need. All right? All right. Well, this has been great. I love you very much. And until the next time we are together, blessed be.